Hello, welcome to the first tutorial of this crochet channel. I'll take you through the basic pattern that is used in the crochet. So, first thing first, you'll have this type of yarn. This is 50 grams, 100% a silk yarn. If you're beginning, I'll recommend you to use this one. And then of course I'll have my crocheting needle. In my case, I'll be using 3mm crochet needle. Then I'll start to crochet. First, you begin by slip knot. You make a slip knot. I'll wrap this on my finger. Then I'll pick this, the first one, and yarn it over the second one. Then I'll pick the second that was wrapped on my finger and I tighten. That is the first way to make a slip knot. There are many ways to make this slip knot. Another way, you can pick this crochet needle, you twist it around the yarn one time, and then you form a slip knot. This is the second way. There are many ways you can do this. I'll begin by wrapping this yarn on my finger, and then I come and hold it here using my thumb and my middle finger, and then I yarn over. Make sure this part is not tight enough so that the crochet needle can pass through. You yarn over. You pass it in the loop, inside that loop. This is the first chain. You can see first chain. Then another chain. Simply you yarn over, and then you come and pass it through this loop. This is the third chain. Yarn over, you pass it through that loop. I'll make 10 chain. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And this is my chain stitch, the base of in most of the crochet patterns. This is my chain stitch. In this stitch we have 3 loops. The first one, this is the first loop, this one, the first loop, and this is the second loop. And then we have a third loop, the one on the back, this one. This is the third loop. Yes. I'm going to cut this. This is just a demonstration, so I'll cut this. Then this is my chain. I'm going to pass this yarn in the middle inside this loop, and then I'll tighten. This is the chain stitch, the base of most of the crochet patterns. I'm going to show you how to make single crochet. Form a loop. You begin by forming a loop. I'll tighten this. Make sure it's not tight enough. Leave a little bit of space. You begin by forming a chain. I'll make 10 chains. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then a 10 chain. The 10th chain. In the single crochet, we normally make an extra chain. This is called, the extra chain is called a turning chain, which I'll use it to just being used to turn, and then it'll form a single crochet. I'll pass my crochet needle inside this second loop, and then I'll yarn over. I'll form 2 loops. On the hook, and then I'll yarn over and pass it through the 2 loops. I'll pass this crochet needle inside this, the second loop. Yarn over, and then form my second loop, which is this, the second loop, then yarn over again. This is what I mean by yarn over. You yarn over, and then you pass it through the 2 loops. I'll do another one. This pattern is called a single crochet. In this case, we have 10 single crochet. Remember, we form 10 chains, so in this case we're going to have 10 single crochet, excluding the extra chain, the one we form over here. That is called a turning chain. In this case, the 10 single crochet, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. That is the last one. Then I'm going to chain 1 and I'll cut this yarn. And come and tighten this yarn over here. Now this is the single crochet. Next, I'm going to show you how to make a half double crochet. Begin by making a slip knot. Half double crochet. You begin by making a chain stitch. And still I'll make 10 chains. So 1 2 3 4. Now in this case of half double crochet, I'll make 2 extra chains. 2 extra chains. Remember, in the single crochet we made an extra 1 chain, but in this case we're going to make 2 extra chains for half double crochet, and then I'll come and insert this crochet needle in the third chain from the hook. See, that chain from the hook. Now in this case, in the half double crochet, you'll begin by yarning over and then come and insert the crochet needle in the third chain from the hook, and then I yarn over and form another loop. So in this case we have 3 loops on the hook. That is 1 2 3 loops. Then I yarn over and pass it through the 3 loops. See, yarn over again, form a loop, yarn over and pass it through the 3 loops. In this case we have 3 half double crochet. Remember the first 2 extra chains, the one we form at the end, we're going to count it as the first half double crochet. This one, this is the half double crochet. Let me show you. This is the half double crochet, the second half double crochet, and the third half double crochet. In this case, the first 2 extra chain, we are going to count it, unlike in the single crochet, the one we just did, where we didn't count the turning chain, the extra turning chain. But in this case we are going to count the turning chain, the 2 extra chain, the half double crochet. This is the first, the second, and the third. and then I'm going to form another one. These are the basic pattern that you can do, that one does in a beginning crocheting. And the last one. Then I'll chain one, then cut this yarn, tighten. Now this is the half double crochet. To make double crochet, begin by making a slip knot. I'm going to chain 10, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then I'm going to make 3 extra chains. 3 extra chain. Now in this case we have 3 extra chain. In the half double crochet we had 2 extra chain, and in the single crochet we had 1 extra chain. Now in this case we have 3 extra chain, and I'm going to insert this hook on the 4th chain from the hook. Fourth chain from the hook. Now I'll begin by yarning over, and then I'll insert it on the 4th chain from the hook. Now we have 3 loops on the hook. I yarn over, yarn over. Now I'll pass through the first 2 loops, and then I yarn over and I pass it through the last 2 loops. Now this is called double crochet. Next one, yarn over, form a loop. Now I have 3 loops on the hook. Come, I yarn over and pass it through the first 2 loops, and then I yarn over and pass it through the next 2 loops. Yarn over, we form a loop, pass it through the first two loops, and then you pass it through the last two loops. Then I'll chain one, then cut. Now this is the double crochet. And again, the first three chains, the first three extra chain, we form it's the one that are going to form, the one that has formed the first double crochet. The first three extra chains is the one that I've used to form the first double crochet. You're going to form a triple crochet, yarn over, pass this through, make a slip knot, you begin by making a chain. This case I'll make 10 chains. This 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then I'll form 4 extra chains. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now in my case, I'll come and insert my hook in the 5th chain. In the 5th chain from the hook. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll come and begin on this chain, the 5th chain. Yarn over. I'll begin by yarning over, and then I'll come to this 5th chain, and form a loop. Now we have 3 loops on the hook. Now in this case, I'll come and make the first and insert my hook on the 5th chain from the hook. This is it. 5th chain from the hook. This one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now in this case, I'm going to yarn over 2 times. 1, 2. And then I'll come it and insert it on the 5th chain, and then I form a loop. Now in this case, I'm going to yarn over and pass it through the first loop, 2 loops, and then I yarn over and pass it through the first 2 loops, and then I yarn over and pass it through the last 2 loops. Now in this case, you have yarn it over 3 times. Another one, you yarn over 2 times. The next chain, we form a loop, yarn over you pass it through the first 2 loops, and over you pass it the next 2 loops, and then you yarn over and pass it through the last 2 loops. Yarn over 2 times. And remember, the first 4 extra chain, you're going to count it as a stitch. This one. Now we have 4 stitches. Sorry, yarn over 2 times, form a loop, and again, these are the basic pattern that you can do when you're beginning crocheting. And the last one, chain 1, and then I'll cut this yarn. Now this is the triple crocheting. I'm going to show you how to make the single crochet, the half double crochet, the double crochet, and the triple crochet using 2 rows. The one we have just done, we have done only 1 row. Now we're going to use 2 rows. You'll see how you're going to form begin by making a slip knot. I'll begin by making a single crochet. The purpose of showing you this is to enable you to see how you're going to turn on the second row. I don't know whether you get it, but I'll show you in a bit. Begin by making a chain. I'll make 10 chain. 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10, and then we'll crochet pattern, and then we're going to insert the crochet hook on the second chain from the hook, yarn over, pull through. Going to have 2 loops, and then yarn over and pass it through the 2 loops. The last loop. Now in this case, for the single crochet, we're going to chain 1 only one, and then you turn your work, and then you're going to insert the hook on the second chain from the hook. Now this an extra chain, we're going to call it. Then extra chain is the one you're calling it a turning chain, and then I'll insert my hook on the second chain from the hook. Same case. Now in this case, I'm going to insert my hook on the two loops of this stitch, on the two loops of this chain, you can see. And then yarn over, pass it through the two loops, and then I yarn over and pass it. Just similar as the one we have done on the first row. Pass it through the two loops. Now in this case it's different because you're passing on the second row, you're passing your hook on the two loops of the chain. And then I yarn over, form two loops on the hook, then I yarn over and pass it through the two loops. Pass it through the two loops, yarn over, and then come and form two loops on the hook, and then I yarn over and pass it through the two loops. So easy. Now the difference between the first row and the second row. On the first row, we passed our yarn on this second loop of the chain. I don't know whether you can see. On the first row we passed our hook on this second loop of the chain. Now on the second row we're going to pass it through the two loops, these two loops. That's the only difference. Pass it through the two loops, form two loops on the hook, and then you pass it through the two loops. Now I'm on my last chain, this one. Now these are the two rows. I'm going to chain one, and then I cut this yarn. To form half double crochet, 2 rows. This is the second one. We begin by making a single crochet. Now I'm making half double crochet. Two rows. I'm going to form 10 chain. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now in this case, you're going to form 2 extra chains on the half double crochet, 1, 2, and then I'm going to insert my hook on the third chain from the hook. I yarn over. I begin by yarning over, and then I'll come and insert my hook on the third chain from the hook. And then I'll pass it through the 3 loops. Begin by yarning over, yarn over, insert it on this, the next chain, and then I'll form 3 loops on the hook, and then I'll pass it over the 3 loops. Now you see on the first row, we're going to insert our hook on this, on the second loop of the chain. See this chain, the next chain on the second loop, and like the second row where we are going to pass it through the 2 loops. The second row we're going to pass the 2 loops, but on this case, on the first row, we're going to pass it on the second loop of the chain. You can see the second loop. This is the first loop, this one, the first loop of the chain, and this one is the second loop of the chain. Now on the second row, we're going to pass through the 2 loops. Yarn over, pass it through this, and then I'll pass through the 3 loops on the hook. Pass it through the 3 loops on the hook. Now, the difference between the single crochet and the half double crochet, when you are turning, remember on the single crochet we only chain 1 and then we turn our work. Now we are going to chain 2. We're going to chain 2. On the next row, we're going to chain 2. This is the same case as the one we did here, the extra 2 chain, and then we insert the hook on the third chain from the hook. Now we're going to form on the second row, we're going to chain 2 extra chains, and then I turn my work, and then I'll come and insert my hook on the third chain, this one, from the hook, on the third chain from the hook. Now I'll begin by yarning over, and then I'll pass this through the 2 loops on the second row. I'm going to pass through the 2 loops of the chain. Now I've formed 3 loops on the hook, and then I'll yarn over and pass it through the 3 loops. Now we have 2 half double crochet. This one we count it as a stitch, this one the first half double crochet stitch and the second half double crochet stitch. Now you're going to form the third, yarn over pass it through the 2 loops on the chain, and then I'll form 3 loops on the hook. Then I yarn over and pass it through the 3 loops. This is my last stitch. This one, my last stitch. Yarn over, pass it through the 2 loops of the chain, and then I yarn over. I form 3 loops on the hook, and then I yarn over and pass it through the 3 loops on the hook. Now the same case continues on the 3rd row, 4th, 5th to infinity. The same case, you're just going to chain 2 extra chain when you're going to the next row, and then I'll come and insert it on the 3rd chain from the hook. That is the 3rd row, but in this case I'm going to do only 2 rows for the purpose of demonstration. Now in this case, for the purpose of demonstration, I'm going to chain only 1, and then I'll cut my yarn. Now this is the first row and the second row of half double crochet. Next, you're going to crochet 2 rows of double crochet. In this case, I've done 10 chains of camera. The first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then I'm going to form 3 extra chains. 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to insert my hook on the 4th chain. On the 4th chain from the hook. I'll begin by yarning over, and then I'll start my hook on the 4th chain from the hook. And then I'll form a loop. Now form 3 loops. Yarn over, I'll pass through the first 2 loops, and then I yarn over and pass it through the last 2 loops. I'm on my last chain. Now, when you're going to the second row, going to chain 3, and then you turn your work. Same case as the one we did here. We form an extra 3 chains, and then you turn our work. The same, when you're going to second row, make 3 chains, then turn your work. And then I'm going to start my hook on the 4th chain from the hook. This is the first chain, the second chain, 3rd, and the 4th chain from the hook. Begin my yarning over, and then I'll start my hook on the 4th chain from the hook. I'll pass through the 2 loops on the second row of this chain. I'm passing through the 2 loops on the second row. Now on the last chain, the same case will continue on the 3rd, 4th, 5th row. I'm going to chain 3, then I'll turn my work, and then I'll insert my hook on the 4th chain from the hook. On the 4th chain from the hook. This one, but in my case, I'll just do 2 rows. I'm going to chain 1 and then I'll catch the yarn. This is the double crochet. Next I'm going to form 2 rows of triple crochet. In this case I've made 10 chains of camera. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now I'll form, on this case I'm going to make an extra 4 chains. 2, 3, 4. And then I'll come and set my hook on the 4th chain from the hook. On the 5th chain, on the 5th chain from the hook. The 1, 2, 3, 4, the 4 extra chains, and then the 5th chain. It's the one I'm going to insert the hook. Now in this case, I'm going to yarn over 2 times on the triple crochet, and then I'll come and insert my hook on the 5th chain from the hook. Then I'll pass through the first 2 loops, and then I'll come and pass through the 2 loops, yarn over and pass this through the last 2 loops. Yarn over, I pass it through the first 2 loops, yarn over, pass it through the next 2 loops, then yarn over and pass it through the last 2 loops. On my last chain, now on the second row, we're going to form an 4 chain, 2, 3, 4. Same case as the one we did over here. The one we did an extra 4 chain. I'm going to form 4 chain on the second row, and then I'll turn my work, and then I'll come and insert my hook from the come and insert my hook in the 5th chain from the hook. This is the first, second, third, fourth, and the 5th chain, the one I'm going to insert my hook. So let's begin and yarn over 2 times, and then I'll come and insert here. Now this is my last chain. On the 4th chain, not the 4th chain. Now on the 3rd row, you're going to do the same thing as the one we did on the 2nd row. You're going to chain 4, and then I'll turn my work, and then I'll come and insert my hook on the 5th chain from the hook. These like that, and it continues with the same pattern. But in my case of demonstration, I'm going to do only 2 rows. For this case, I'm going to chain 1, and then I'll cut my yarn. Now this is my 2 rows of triple crochet. As part of this basic tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make a slip stitch. I have made my chain stitch, which is the base of every crocheting, and then I'm going to form a slip stitch. In this case, I'm going to insert my hook on the 2nd chain from the hook, the 2nd chain from the hook, and then I'll yarn over. Now I have 2 loops. The slip knot, the slip stitch, you're going to pass the first loop from the hook. This one, the first loop, I'm going to pass it in the 2nd loop. Like this. The next chain, yarn over and form a loop, and then I'll pass this the first loop, and this the 2nd loop. The first loop, you pass it in the 2nd loop. This is what we call a slip stitch. the last chain, just like that. The same case as the second row, you form one extra chain, you turn your work, and then you start it on the second chain from the hook. The second chain from the hook. You pass it through the two loops of the chain, and then slip stitch. Now I'm going to chain one and I'll cut off my yarn.